Hey everyone, and welcome back to another story time with Big Bad Daddy Bardock. So we've just come back from an expedition and we've been given our leave, and because we completed our skirmish in quick time, we were granted a few extra days on our leave. Fasha suggests that we celebrate in style. Now just north of the royal palace is a mountain region of Vegeta with these natural hot springs. But what makes them especially cool are these geysers that make the water bubble. So we decided to grab crate upon crate of alcohol from the market and head on up. There was my squad and two other low-class Saiyan teams, one including Turles. This was before he broke off from the Saiyan army and formed his own unit. So we reached the spring, remove our armor, grab a bottle of booze each and dive right in. The water was absolutely perfect. I mean, it literally felt like your muscles were just melting right off the bone. Everyone was in high spirits and we were just knocking them back one after the other. Now Taro pulls out a gourd with some old tuffle grass. We all take a few hits and that was it. My body was completely gone. At this point I just keep dunking my head under the water to fill the bubbles on my face. It felt so good. So a good few hours had passed and it was nighttime. Now the problem was it had gotten too cold, so nobody wanted to leave. Now Turles is desperate to take a piss. So he gets up his courage, leaps out of the water, screaming as he's running over to the bushes so he can relieve himself. And of course, he stumbles and falls ass over head on the ground. After he's finished taking his wid, he just bolts it back shivering and dives headfirst straight back into the water. He resurfaces with the biggest relief face I have ever seen. So more hours pass and we had knocked back so much alcohol at this point. I mean, most of the Saiyans were just passing out in the nearby camps. Tora, Leek, and Borga were further up the other end, just talking deep philosophical nonsense, because, they're just high as kites. Shugesh and Tora both went back into the camp to pig out because they have got the mega munchies. So it's just myself, Gine, Fasha, and Turles in the corner of the spring. Now Fasha and Gine are all cuddled up and they start whispering in each other's ears. Fasha then has this devious smirk on her face. Gine goes bright red and starts to giggle. But then she licks her lips and then whispers back in Fasha's ear. So we're curious as to what the hell has got them grinning so much. The pair look at us with this lustful hunger as Fasha utters, "You know what would be really hot? If you two made out." Now at this point we are very drunk, so any idea seems like a good idea. And in my mind I'm thinking, oh, this will turn the ladies on, huh? But before I can do anything, Turles is just on me like a wet t-shirt. I mean, he is really sticking his tongue down my throat as if he wanted to taste the contents of my stomach or something. Now I'm too drunk at this point to even care, so I just run with it. I open one of my eyes to glance over at the girls. Now this must have really been doing something for them, because they have got these hungry eyes as they look at us. Their faces are all flushed and then they're just groping at themselves. Fasha gives off this big smirk as she pulls Gine in and then they start making out. So now I'm getting really turned on at this point. I mean, obviously we've got the girls fired up too. So in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, is this going where I think it's going? Turles is behind me, stroking at my chest as he leans over and whispers in my ear, "Let's do something wild." Now I've never done anything like this before, so I'm getting nervous as hell. So Turles grabs Fasha by the hand, leading her out of the hot spring. She in turn grabs Gine's hand, and then Gine grabs mine. One by one, hand in hand, we ascend from the spring. But obviously, it's freezing cold out, so we all end up bolting for it on our tippy toes to the shelter. So we enter one of the rooms and all jump on the bed. Now Gine and Fasha are lying there side by side, holding each other's hands, looking up at me and Turles with their legs shuffling with lusty excitement. Now before we start anything, we all decided to have another drink. Myself, Fasha, and Gine decided to have some more alcohol, but Turles decided that he wanted to have something warm. Now, in this room is a hearth with an iron pot that you can boil water in, so Turles decides to make himself some tea. While he's busy doing that, I'm sat by the girls and I start rubbing both of their feet plus caressing and massaging their thighs. Now Fasha makes a crack at how her and Gine could have me rub their feet and legs every night from here on out. Gine obviously giggles at the idea. Turles finishes making his tea and then he grabs one of our ration wafers. They're kind of like a harder, crumblier cookie type thing. With both in hand, he sits on the edge of the bed to consume them, while I continue massaging the ghost's legs and talking. Some time passes. Gine, Fasha and I have been chatting for a good while at this point. Having one of those deep conversations that you have when you're drunk, when you open up about random stuff. At this point, Fasha starts getting antsy and shouts, "So Turles, are we doing this whole thing or not?" It is here we all turn our attention to Turles, who is still sat on the end of the bed. However, the guy is out like a light. But that's what's crazy. He's passed out fast asleep, snoring and all, but he still sat upright on the end of the bed with his tea and ration in hand. He hasn't touched either of them, yet he hasn't spilled a single drop. I mean, this guy is in dreamland and he's still managing to hold his tea and ration. But what makes it even funnier is that it looked like he passed out midway as he was trying to feed himself the cookie. So he's holding the damn thing up to his face and yet he's snoring away. Gine hugs me from behind and says, "Look, can you take them off of him before he drops them?" So I say, "Okay, fine, no problem." I get up off the bed and grab the tea and ration from Turles' hand and place them on the side table. Now, I don't know what kind of magical physics would work here, but taking away the tea seemed to be the tipping point for Turles' perfect sleeping balance, as he then slowly starts to slump forward, and then flump, bang! He falls off the bed, smacks his head off the wall on his way down, crashing to the floor face first. So me and Gine jump, calling out to him, like asking if he was okay. And then all of a sudden, a loud... So the guy has passed out on the edge of the bed. He's fallen, smacked his head against the wall, and he's still not woken up. And he's sleeping like a baby on the floor. So he's okay, but he is out for the night. Gine sighs with relief before another loud. This time, it's coming from Fasha, who has taken all of the covers, balled herself up like a chrysalis on the bed, and has just passed out. So here I climb back onto the bed and I whisper to Gine. Well, I guess it's just us then. Gine smirks and says, "But what if the other two wake up?" To which I reply, "We're talking about sleeping through hurricane winds Fasha there, and Mr. smacks his head and is still asleep Turles down there. I think we'll be okay." Gine hesitates at first, but because of all the alcohol we've consumed and the kick of the possibility of being caught turning her on even more, we end up getting down to business. And despite trying to keep quiet, we end up making more noise than we should have. Especially Gine. Now, the following morning, we all wake up, and we are all feeling pretty sorry for ourselves. I mean, the hangovers were setting in hard. Fasha refuses to move from her balled-up position, pathetically muttering, "I need bacon." Gine crawls out of bed and heads to the washroom to, freshen up. Then, like a zombie rising from the dead, awakens Turles. He stumbles over to the bed like an old mummy, plonks himself down, and buries his head into my shoulder with a whimpering moan. My head hurts, he quietly blurts as he wraps his arms around me. I awkwardly sit there and just pat him on the back of the head. So at this point he lifts up his noggin and then whispers in my ear. By the way, I woke up and heard everything. Now my jaw just dropped. I mean, I'm shocked as hell. I'm thinking to myself like, "Are you serious? Oh shit, like what the heck do I say? What do I do?" He looks at me, smirking, and says, "Turles knows, Turles knows." He scoffs and buries his head back into my shoulder. Then he quietly murmurs, "Proud of you, Bardock. You did good." With a lot of effort, he lifts up his arm and bumps my fist. He then says to me, "Just let me die quietly here, okay?" To which I say, "As long as you're quiet," and I pat him on the back of his head again. And that's the end of the story. Anyway, if you enjoyed this story time with Bardock, give that like button a little. If you'd like to hear more of our stories or see more of our other content, hit that subscribe button. Give it a little tap tap taparoo. Give that notification bell a little ring-a-ding-ding ding-a-ling chicken wing to stay notified of all of our content. And for exclusives, head on over to our Patreon page. Plus, do you have any crazy stories? We would love to hear them, so drop them in the comments below. Anyway, Gine's baking apple pie. So I'll see you all in the next one. Bardock out.
He looks just like you though, don't you think?